Southeast Louisiana is no stranger to disasters, but a summit in New Orleans today hopes to reach area leaders how to better prepare for them.
It's the second and final day of a leadership conference for preparedness where local business, government, and nonprofit leaders are participating. Jill Hazu joins us live with more from the summit.
Well, good morning, and the goal is to get local business, government, and nonprofit leaders to work together during a crisis. Joining us now is Curtis Weaver of the CDC, one of the speakers at today's event, and unfortunately Southeast Louisiana has experience in responding to hurricanes. How can this summit help them to better respond?
Well, with a hurricane like a Katrina, or any other type of disaster or public health emergency, most people can understand that any one part of the government, any one part of the business, or even nonprofits can quickly become overwhelmed, and that we must work together to be able to collaborate and build an effective response. Even the recent oil spill shows that government and business have to work together to solve the problem. So this summit helps bring all those people together, and we help create those linkages and create that communication between the different sectors that are within the region.
And there will be a mock drill for participants today. Tell us about the scenario.
Well, it's an Al-Qaeda-based scenario of a bombing, but the scenario almost doesn't matter. Like I said before, any scenario can quickly overwhelm a region or a part of or a city. And so we'll use that scenario really as the driver, but to generate conversation about what are the big gaps in preparedness. Where do the business leaders see the big gaps that the government may not see? Where do the government see the big gaps? And then we'll spend some time today trying to fill those and have conversations of what actions can we take after today to begin to fill those gaps now, so that if a crisis happens, we can all better respond.
What advice do you have for Southeast Louisiana right now that's going through, unfortunately, another disaster in this oil spill?
That it's going to take a lot of collaboration. It's not just government, it's not just business, it's not just nonprofits. We're all going to have to work together. In fact, at the reception last night, there was some talk about nonprofits helping people who have been economically impacted by this. So it involves all of us, and the sooner we work together and the sooner we understand each other and what everybody brings to the table, the better.
And even though the summit has been going on for years, it was really in response to Hurricane Katrina?
The meta leadership concept that was put together by the Harvard Kennedy School for Government was finalized as a response to Katrina and all that happened there. And then they began to put these summits together to go nationwide with this concept of meta leadership. And it's really, the summit itself is a collaboration between the CDC Foundation, the CDC, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and the Harvard's Kennedy School for Government, going around across the nation, putting people together, talking about filling gaps, and really pulling from the local regions, what are you doing that's working, so that we can take that on to other regions as we talk.
And for the viewers sitting at home, what comfort can they take away from this summit going on in New Orleans right now?
Well, we're really excited because we've got a large crowd coming today of business leaders, nonprofit leaders, government leaders, and a lot of excitement's in the room about how we can get better. We're excited because we're going to learn all the things that have happened since Katrina to make this region more prepared, and hopefully take that with us to other summits as we learn lessons. The summit today is not just a one-day event. We're not just coming in and leaving. The CDC Foundation is going to follow up over the next few months and talk about the commitments that are made today about closing gaps and see where people are on progress and help gauge that progress.
Okay, thank you so much, Curtis Weaver with the CDC, and these summits are actually going on nationwide, up to 30 cities by next June. Reporting downtown, Jill Hazu, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
All right, thanks very much, Jill. In other news this morning, New Orleans police is the final day of a summit that brings together business and government leaders together to learn how to prepare for emergencies.
It's focusing on preparing for large-scale disasters like the oil spill, hurricanes, terrorist attacks, and pandemic flu. Jill Hazu is outside the convention center now with more on that. Good morning, Jill.
Well, good morning, and unfortunately Southeast Louisiana is familiar with responding to hurricanes, but this summit's also focusing on other disasters. Joining us now is Dr. Barry Dorn with the Harvard Public School of Health, as well as one of the creators of this summit. And the timing, though, is just uncanny, ironic that the summit is here at this time. But what have you observed so far about the response?
Well, it is uncanny that the summit is here, and we didn't plan this. I want to tell your audience that. And my associate was here the day after the spill, and I'm here obviously 45 days afterwards. And this is a massive event. This is not just a local event. This is a nationwide event. And I think the response to this point has been great. We have actually seen the linkages between government, in the private sector, the philanthropic sector, already talking about what they're going to do. So I think this is an event which has brought together the three sectors. Now, it is an event which will be long-standing, and how it plays out, no one really knows at this point.
But there has been a lot of anger and frustration.
Absolutely. And Southeastern Louisiana has good reason to be angry. I mean, they feel that the government let them down after Katrina, and in many ways, we probably did leave the people in Southeastern Louisiana down. So there's a level of anxiety. And now that we see small glitches, this thing didn't get popped and capped right away, I think the anxiety level is going up. So as the president and the national leaders and the local leaders reinforce the fact that people will be taken care of, we will deal with this issue, I hope that they will get the hope that they can solve the problem.
You had some interesting observations about regionalism and specific local leaders and their response.
You have, Southeast Louisiana is great. I mean, you have, your parishes are linked to one another, they talk to one another, there's communication. So on a local level, you're very linked. On a regional level, you're even better linked. There's an organization called Talon, which is Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and New Mexico, and that's Region 6, FEMA Region 6. They come together, and what they say is, in your state, what are the two major things that you're going to have to face as far as disasters or mass casualty events? And then they ask each other, if that's the event that you have to face, and these are the gaps that you'll have, what could you give us to help us? So the fact that these 5 states are sitting and talking to one another and sharing resources is phenomenal. I mean, this should be a model for the country, actually.
Is there any way to rate the response thus far, even incorporating our local leaders?
You really can't do that. You know, this is so subjective. As we talked about before, before we come into a city, we speak to a lot of people and ask them, you know, how do you feel about preparedness? What are you doing with preparedness? So we feel that Southeastern Louisiana is pretty well prepared. I can't give you a number. I think they're very well prepared compared to other parts of the country. And what this does, because they're anxious to have us here, this tells me that they're willing to raise that bar even higher, which is great. It's great.
What's the scenario that they're going to go through today?
We're going to use multiple terrorist bombings. The reason we chose that kind of a scenario is because it's very typical of Al-Qaeda. It's multiple, it's thematic, and it's simultaneous. It mimics, the disaster we're going to do today mimics the Madrid subway bombing. And we've been to all of those places and looked at what happened in those events and how they played out. So we give the people something, a frame of reference that they can say, well, this is a mass casualty event, so how would that affect me in my sector?
Thank you so much, Dr. Barry Dorn of the Harvard Public School of Health, as well as one of the creators of the summit. And the summit is not only local, it's actually a national initiative, and they plan to be in 30 cities by next year. Reporting from downtown New Orleans, Jill Hazu, Channel 4 Eyewitness News.
Thank you very much, Jill. It's very interesting that they chose to come here.